Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 11. Balam Balavatam Cha Aham Kama Raga Vivarjitam Dharma Abhiruddha Bhuteshu Kamaha Asmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha. Please repeat. Balam Balavatam Chaham
Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma viruddho bhuteshu
Dharma viruddho bhuteshu
Kamosmi bharatarshava
Kamosmi bharatarshava
Balam balavatam chaham
Balam balvatam saham
Kamaraga vivarjitam
Kamaraga vivarjitam
Dharma viruddho bhuteshu
Dharma viruddho bhuteshu
Kamosmi bharatarshava
Kamosmi bharatarshava
Balam balavatam chaham Kamaraga vivarjitam Dharma viruddho bhuteshu Kamosmi bharatarshava
Mataji's own chant.
Balam balavatam chaham Kamaraga vivarjitam Dharma viruddho bhuteshu Kamosmi bharatarshava
Balam balavatam chaham
Kamaraga vivarjitam Dharma viruddho bhuteshu Kamosmi bharatarshava
Balam,
Balam,
strength. Balavatam,
Balavatam,
of the strong.
of the strong.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and.
Aham,
Aham,
I am.
I am.
Kama,
Kama,
passion.
passion.
Raga,
Raga,
and attachment.
attachment.
Vivarjitam,
Vivarjitam,
devoid of.
devoid of.
Dharma aviruddha,
Dharma viruddha,
not against religious principles.
not against religious principles.
Bhuteshu,
Bhuteshu,
in all beings.
in all beings.
Kamaha,
Kamaha,
sex life.
sex life.
Asmi,
Asmi,
I am.
I am.
Bharatarishabha,
Bharatarshabha,
O Lord of the Bharatas.
O Lord of the Bharatas.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Purport: the strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. Short and sweet. Om Ajnani Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dharati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Rakhunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivikasa Swami Nitinamane Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitam Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshabha. So this is one of the a verse in a series of verses of the seventh chapter, which is very famous. This is a string of verses where Krishna is recommending Arjuna to remember him in various ways in connection with our sensory perception. So the whole goal of Krishna's teachings to Arjuna is to awaken within him Krishna consciousness. So these are very famous verses because these directly teach us how we can be more Krishna conscious, how we can be conscious of Krishna in our everyday activities. So previously we have Krishna saying Rasoham Apsukham Teya, that Krishna is the taste of water, Prabhasmi Shashi Surayo, that he is the light of the sun and the moon. He is the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. He is the sound in ether. He is the ability in man. What else we have? Punya Gandha. Buddhi Buddhimatam Asmi. He is the intelligence of the intelligent. He is the fragrance of the earth. He is the heat of the fire. So in other words, Krishna is the essence of everything. And specifically, Krishna is the essence of those things which are good. Of course, the very famous saying that God is good, God is great. Let us thank Him for His food. The basic prayers that everyone knows. And this is true. God is good and God is great. But also, those things which are bad are also emanating from God. God being, Krishna being the supreme absolute truth, which is that which everything is emanating from. So we can actually, one who is Krishna conscious can see Krishna in everything. And they don't actually make the distinction between bad and good because they see everything in connection with the supreme good, Krishna. But in the conditioned state, in other words, in the material state of consciousness, we have duality, where we're seeing things as being good, as being bad, as being hot, being cold, things which are favorable to us, things which are unfavorable. And everybody has their own preferences, everybody has their own opinions, their own desires, etc., etc. But it's not that Krishna conscious people don't have their own opinions and they don't have their own desires, but any person who is Krishna conscious or is transcendental, they can relate on the transcendental platform of understanding that Krishna is the center of everything. And in this way they can cooperate. So, of course, those who are not Krishna conscious, there are so many problems because there are discrepancies in the way that, and some might say that this is good and some might say that this is good. Some might say that abortion is good, some might say that it is very bad. And so like this, we have lots of contention in modern society, especially in this Kali Yuga, because everyone is lacking real God consciousness. The dualities of material nature have bewildered the intelligence of the entire population. Specifically, in this verse we're discussing the strength of the strong and sex life. These are very important things to understand, and these are things which are very desirable for most people in this world. People want to be very strong and they want to have good sex. This is for most people, this is like the essence of life. Specifically, this sex life is that everything, all aspects of their life is arranged in such a way that it can increase their sex life. Whether that be gross sex life or more subtle sex life, like expanding one's family, expanding one's dominion over his society, his country, etc., etc. These are actually projections of one's sex desire. And these are connected too. The strength and sex are very intimately connected. And one who is very strong is usually considered to be very sexually potent. So generally, especially for men, and of course and now women, they go to the gym and they try to get nice and buff to attract the opposite gender. Because specifically for a man, it's attractive. A woman is attracted to a man who is capable of protecting and who is capable of exhibiting his strength at times of when a woman is simply not physically capable of doing so. So this is something which is desirable. Why is this desirable? Because Krishna is the supreme strong, and Krishna is all attractive. So therefore, anything that we see which is also exhibiting some kind of strength, it reminds us of Krishna, actually. For a Krishna conscious person, it reminds us of Krishna. Actually, for everyone, the reason why they are attracted to this strength is because originally they were attracted to Krishna, who is the supreme strong. And now in the conditioned state, whenever we see something which resembles the strength of Krishna, we are attracted to that. But this attraction is a perverted attraction, because it's not being directed at the real source of strength, which is Krishna. It's being directed at a fallible soldier. This language is used in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada uses this. There's a name of Krishna called Achyuta, which means infallible. It means that he can never fall. His position, he always holds his position. It's not like the President of the United States. It's not like any material situation. Krishna never falls from being the supreme strong. But others in this material world who appear to be very strong, just like this, they can fall from that position. You know, the greatest bodybuilders, the greatest fighters of all time, you know, you look at them now, often quoted is the, I think it was Muhammad Ali who got Parkinson's or Lou Gehrig's disease or something like that. He went from being the greatest fighter alive, undefeated like boxing record, to being literally unable to like lift his own arms and sit on the toilet and take his own shower and things like this. So we can actually see the fallibility of those who exhibit this quality of material sense. But these are the types of people that the materialistic civilization worships. They put up big posters, just like we have here. We have a big altar with pictures of Krishna and pictures of Krishna's associates and everything like that. Similarly, materialistic people, they worship these idols of society by getting posters in their rooms. They might have like their phone screen wallpaper as like LeBron James or something like that. And these are like the idols that people are following. And some people are not very interested in being strong, but I had one friend specifically who was a gym rat. They call them gym rats. They're always in the gym. And he literally was just obsessed. He had different idols. There's different bodybuilders who are known for like having good biceps, and different ones who are known for having a good back, and you worship the different deities, according to like which muscles you're working that day. So today we can meditate upon Arnold Schwarzenegger to get like the big chest, and the next day I don't know any other bodybuilders, but et cetera, et cetera. So in this way, we meditate upon these people. We worship these people. Of course, we might not get articles of worship like we're doing here, but specifically within our mind, our speech, our activities, we are performing worship to these people. And what the Vedic literature says is that whenever one performs worship to someone, they acquire the qualities of that person. So the whole goal is that they're trying to acquire the qualities. Some admirable qualities of a person can be acquired whenever one worships that person. And this is very practically seen, that if you go to a very rich businessman and you please him very much by massaging him and getting him coffee and cleaning his room and doing so many things, he might give you a lot of money, just because he's very favorably disposed to you. So if you want to get rich, you go and you suck up to your boss, and then he might give you a promotion. And this is the general way that people make so-called advancement in material life. So similarly, people who want to be strong, they worship so-called strong people. And this is not something which is new. This bodybuilding is, of course, a very perverted very perverted culture in general. But for thousands and thousands of years, since the beginning of this material world, there have been living entities who exhibit great strength in this world. And they are admired by all of the so-called normal people of society. And these people are generally given positions of power in society, like kings and rulers. And in a proper society where that king and ruler is a devotee of Krishna and is following the regulative principles of the scriptures, then the society is very happy, because that strength is being engaged in the service of God. So whenever one admires how that king is engaging his strength in the service of Krishna, then they also get benefit from that. They also become spiritually enlivened and spiritually strengthened. So this is the dharma viruddha. We have this is dharma aviruddha. Aviruddha meaning that it is not against dharma. Dharma aviruddha. But we also have dharma viruddha, and this is the society that we're seeing now, where the strength of the strong is being engaged in very sinful activities. And like I was saying before, it's generally for someone to be strong, it's generally to attract the opposite sex in the most gross sexual context, but also any figment of strength that one has who is not God conscious, they are naturally inclined to use that strength to exploit other living entities, whether it be human beings or animals or other countries, like this. So many wars are going on, and specifically the slaughtering of animals is going on in incredible numbers. The Christians, they often quote that in the Bible God told somebody that you have dominion over the animals. So that we say, oh, why are you, God says thou shalt not kill, why are you killing the animals? Well, they say, oh, well, God said that we have dominion over the animals. So dominion means that the human beings are superior to the animals. And that doesn't mean that, if you are a preschool teacher and you have dominion over all the preschool students, that doesn't mean that you put them in a slaughterhouse, kill them, and eat them. It means that you have some responsibility over them. There may be cases where you have to exert your power over them in such a way that death is required, killing is required. But specifically this dominion over lower species of life is meant to be the responsibility of the human being, and therefore the protection of the animals within the society is part of Vedic culture. And in Vedic culture, the citizens of the state are not limited to the human beings. They actually include all of the living creatures within the state. And the responsibility of the leaders of society is that they're meant to protect all of the citizens of the state, including animals, including trees, including all of these different species of life. But in modern society, the government is encouraging this animal slaughter. And it's because of their misunderstanding, not being able to see that their strength is coming from the supreme strong, Krishna. And in such a state of consciousness, they are misusing that strength. The very common phrase in English we have, with great power comes great responsibility. Is that from like Spider-Man or something? Anyways, I think it was like in Spider-Man, whenever he... It's quoted in Spider-Man. But this is like a timeless, this is like a timeless shloka, basically. What, you know where it's from? It came from Spider-Man. But the idea is there, and it was made famous by Spider-Man, by Stan Lee. And but the idea is there that with great power comes great responsibility. And this is because you can get to your head. If you're very powerful but you're not so responsible, then that power can be the cause of your own destruction. And of course, we're having a big seminar Vishnu Chitta Prabhu is giving about the Ramayana. The whole story of the Ramayana is centered around the story of how Ravana became so powerful. He was the most powerful living entity in the whole universe, but he was still destroyed by Rama. He was able to dominate. He had dominion over all other living entities. And he was exerting that dominance over them in very sinful ways. But because Krishna or Rama is Balam Balavatang, he is the source of that strength, he was able to overpower even Ravana, who maintained the position of being the most powerful living entity in the universe for a very long time. So this is by learning about stories like this, then we can save ourselves a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache of going through the endeavor to become, that strong person, to become that person who can leverage his power over others and who can try to become happy by seeing others suffer because of our dominance over them. So we can become purified by hearing stories of how Rama killed Ravana. And Krishna is known in different incarnations as being very strong. In his pastimes as Lord Rama, he was able to kill thousands and thousands of Rakshasas or demons all at once. He didn't need any help. And of course, in Krishna Lila, Krishna was very strong even from a very young age. He was able to pull down the Trinavarta demon, the whirlwind demon. He was able to pull him down. He was able to lift Govardhan Hill on his left pinky for 7 days and 7 nights, just as a 7-year-old boy. So Krishna is very strong, but his older brother Balarama is specifically known for being very strong. Krishna is, of course, the reservoir of all good qualities. We have Aishwaryasya, what is that? Samagrasya, Viryasya Yashasha Shriyaha, Jnana Vairagyayos Shanam Bhaga Itingana, something like that. Shanam Bhaga Itingana, I think something like that. But Aishwarya, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, these 6 opulence. So we have Aishwarya, and he's very beautiful. Virya means strong. So Virya, and Bala, these are synonyms, basically. Yasha, he is famous. Yasha, this is still a famous name for people in India. Yash, this name Yash means famous. People want to be famous, so they want their kids to be famous, so they name them famous. But Yashasha Shriyaha, I guess that would be the beauty. The first one, Aishwarya, would be the wealth, being very wealthy. Viryasya Yashasha Shriyaha, Jnana, he's full of all knowledge. Vairagya, and he's also full of all renunciation. So these 6 qualities is what makes Krishna Bhagavan. Bhagavan meaning the reservoir of all opulences. Specifically, these 6 opulences summarize the majesty of Krishna. So this Virya is coming from Krishna, who is the supreme strong. And Krishna is Swayam Rupa, meaning that is the original and supreme personality of Godhead. And Balarama is Swayam Prakasha, which means he is the original manifestation or the original expansion of that Swayam Rupa. So Balarama is directly the first expansion from the original Swayam Rupa Krishna, Shyamasundar Krishna. And but Balarama is more known than Krishna for being very strong. And in the Krishna book, we can read about different pastimes of Balaram with his plow, moving entire cities, moving entire rivers, pulling down great demons like this. And he was always there as an elder brother of Krishna who was like there to protect him. And the pastime of Krishna dancing on the hoods of the serpent Kaliya, the residents of Vrindavan hearing about this, that Krishna, so basically Krishna jumped into the Yamuna to go and fight with this serpent who was poisoning the water, and he was down there for like 2 hours straight. And like the residents of Vrindavan were like freaking out. And specifically they were kind of freaking out because Balaram did not go out with all the cowherd boys that day. And later Balaram came with some of the residents of Vrindavan. But specifically, this point is there, that the residents of Vrindavan were very anxious, knowing that Krishna was in a state of danger without the protection of Balaram, who is generally understood to be the protector of Krishna. And Balaram protects Krishna in other ways too. Whenever Vasudeva is carrying Krishna across the Yamuna over to Vrindavan from Mathura, Balaram exhibits his form as Ananta Shesha and covers him from the torrential rain which was falling at that time, protecting Krishna in this way. And of course, Balarama is also Ananta Shesha, who is holding the entire universe together. It's described that he is like the threads going sideways and up and down, vertical and horizontal, like in a cloth. So the cloth is nothing but thread, but whenever it's a cloth, we don't call it thread. But we can see the essence of that is the threads, and that is Shesha, that is Ananta, who is holding the universe together. Scientists know it as gravity. That's another exhibition of Balarama's influence over the cosmic manifestation. So what's stronger than gravity? Of course, we make rockets and everything which are meant to counteract gravity. Scientists have been trying to conceive of anti-gravity machines for a very long time, and there's science fiction movies and novels all about, what it would be like. And, whenever you launch a satellite up in the atmosphere and it's up beyond the influence of the gravity of the planet Earth, you can perform different scientific experiments where the variables of that experiment are not affected by things such as gravity. And so many different, in mathematics and physics, you always have to take, there's like theoretical physics where you learn it in the very beginning of like physics classes, where you have formulas and everything like that. And then later on they teach you actually
all of these don't actually work in the real world because there's things like gravity, there's things like air resistance, there's things like friction, all these. So you have to learn new formulas and stuff like that. So this strength of gravity is also known to be very, very strong. It's very difficult to escape from that. Even we might launch something up into the atmosphere, but after some time it has to return because of the force of gravity. And the whole universe is actually being maintained by the gravitational pulls of the different planets and everything like this. So even scientists, modern scientists, they understand the influence of gravity. And this is actually coming from Balaram. Bala is the same word that we're reading about in this verse. Balam balavatang chaham. So Bala and Rama. So specifically Balarama is known for being very strong. And of course being Rama, being very attractive and pleasing for the devotees. And he's very fearful for the non-devotees. It's very nice having a protector who is very strong and who likes to exhibit his strength in different ways. But if you're not under his protection, he's a cause of danger for you. So for demons, this quality of strength that is exhibited in the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a cause for anxiety for them. For devotees, Krishna is manifested to them in so many different ways. In the holy name, in the Archa Vigraha, the deity form in the temple, in so many different ways. But for the non-devotees, the Supreme Lord is manifest to them in the form of death. At the time of death, there's nothing stronger than that death which takes away their life. There's nothing that they can do to fight it, no matter how strong they are, physically, mentally, whatever it may be. But specifically, Balarama is known for being very strong. Of course, all of Krishna's different forms, they exhibit all of these different 6 opulences which I was describing, but some of them exhibit one more than others at different time according to different circumstances. So, general understanding, anything that might appear to be very strong, it's coming from the Supreme Strong, which is Krishna. That which everything is emanating from, or those emanations from the original source, they can't have any quality which the original source does not have. So if we see something which is very strong in this material world, then we can just imagine how strong must be the source which they're getting that strength from. So we might be very attracted to strong people of this material world. But if we think about where they're getting their strength from, then we can appreciate Krishna for his aspect of being very strong. I mean, factually, even logically speaking, you can't claim to be very strong on your own accord. Even these gym rats, they get all of their strength from what do they take? Protein, creatine, steroids. Super like. Oh my goodness, their diets are just like ridiculous. The amount of like meat that they eat, the amount of time that they spend on these machines. It's not like they popped out of the womb with all of this strength. They had to go through so much grueling, effort to get there. And according to their karma, one might not, there's some people that, we meet them on the streets all the time. If there's a guy that's like kind of buff, we say like, yo man, like you work out or just eat a lot. Or if they seem like they might be a little offended if you say that they eat a lot, I like to say, oh, do you work out or do you have a really good diet? And but sometimes they'll tell us, no, I don't even work out, man. This is just how I am. So according to their karma, they are just naturally very strong because in a previous life they performed the work which was required to get some kind of bodily strength. And in this life, Guru Maharaj actually has a talk on this. I think it was called "Want to Get Big Muscles Like Me" or something like that. And it was talking about how if you in this life that we're living right now, if you really want to be really, really strong, you can do it Vedically actually. If you really want this, there's a way to do it. You just have to be a little patient and you have to wait until your next life. And if you really cultivate this desire to be very strong, then in your next life you can become a gorilla or an elephant or something like this. If you're very, very pious, you might even become like a demigod or something like that, where you'll be strong in that way. So, anyways, I digress. But yeah, just understanding in the 10th chapter, I always forget the Sanskrit, but Krishna tells Arjuna that know that all things which are beautiful, majestic, powerful, I forget what it is, know that all of these things are but a spark of my splendor. I remember first reading the Bhagavad Gita, this really stood out to me. Just a spark of my splendor. Very poetic language, but the understanding is that anything that appears to be good in this material world, whether it be a beautiful scene, a beautiful, nature, something very strong, somebody very famous, just know that to be just a very small, a fire, the spark compared to a fire is practically nothing, There's really no significance to a spark. Even if a spark lands on you, it might sting for a second, but it doesn't burn you. But putting your hand into the fire, it burns you. But, all of these things, there's just a spark of Krishna's splendor. And Krishna is the supreme strong. He's the source of all of these opulences. So we can understand Krishna in this way. The next part of the verse is talking about sex life. This is not everybody who claims to be spiritual is very enthusiastic to talk about sex life. Many people, they want to be spiritual, but also they want to be spiritual, but not right now. They have different priorities which they're interested in. And some might put on a big show of being spiritual only for the sake of attracting another so-called spiritual person so that they can enjoy sex life together. This is super, super common, and at least in the hippie culture, which was previously existing, and then of course there's a new age kind of thing like that. We go to these spiritual conventions to distribute books, and there's these old people. There's psychic mediums and Reiki healers, and they're all intermingling. They're all over 50, over 60 years old, and they're intermingling with each other, and it's just a big show. Their whole spirituality is just a big show. And that is because their spirituality is dharma viruddha. It is against the principles of dharma. So what is dharma? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Actually, who says that? Yamaraj? In the sixth canto? Either that or the Yamadutas. No, it would be Yamaraj to the Yamadutas. Explaining to them that dharma is that which is set by God. The rules set by God is dharma. So one who is considered to be dharmic or religious, that means that one is inclined towards following the rules of God. The rules of God aren't just things like no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. The rules of God are the laws of nature. There are some rules of God which we just cannot transgress. For instance, gravity, which we were talking about earlier. At least on this planet, in this body, in our current condition, we can't fly, There are laws of nature which are physically preventing us from doing certain things. There's a cap to how strong you can get. A human being might be able to lift, I don't know what the world record is, deadlift, maybe 600, probably more than that, 1,000 pounds, something like that. Let's say they can deadlift 1,000 pounds. But, for instance, a gorilla, or what to speak of a gorilla, a bobcat, not the animal, but a skid steer, bobcat machine, you can lift, probably a lot more than 1,000 pounds. You can flip a car, no problem, just at the flick of your finger. So, of course, these are expansions of the strength of the human being. By their strength, they can create other machines which are stronger, and this is because of the strength of their intelligence as well. But the point is that there are natural laws which govern this material world which we're living in, and some of these laws just cannot be broken. There are some laws which we have independence over, for instance, meat eating. We understand from the Vedic scriptures that meat eating is just simply wrong. It's not recommended in all circumstances. There are some times when it can be allowed, but it's not recommended ever. But that's something that we don't have to follow if we don't want to. We can go outside right now. There's probably squirrels, and of course it'd be really hard to catch one. But you can go to the Walmart and buy a 22 in some places. I don't know if in Atlanta you can buy guns in Walmart, but growing up, you just walk into Walmart and you can buy a gun there. You can at least get a Red Ryder or something like that. And and you can go outside and you can kill an animal and you can, cook it up and eat it. There's no laws of the state, and there's no moral codes that are really popular in society nowadays, which really prevents anybody from doing that. In fact, it's kind of recommended. It's kind of like a part of like American culture, at least in the South, is that you got to go hunting with your grandpa at least a few times before he dies. It's like you got to get his association like that. And this is kind of the culture that we've been brought up in. And of course, this is a very gross way, but you can also just go to the grocery store and buy meat. It's very easy. You just have to have a few dollars. There's high quality meat that is very expensive, and you have to have more qualification to get the tenderloins than you do to get the beef tongue or whatever. There's like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. But anyways, the point is that this is an example of one of the laws of nature, which is apparently very easy to transgress. Apparently, God might say this, God might have made this law for us, but I don't have to follow that law. That's what we're thinking. But in reality, just like the laws of the state, you can run a red light, you can kill your neighbor, you can steal from the store down the road, you can do all of these things, but you are subject to punishment for them. And unlike the laws of the state, where you can get away from it, at least for some time, or maybe your whole life, you can get away with doing so many different crimes, unlike the laws of the state, where you can get away from them, you cannot get away from the dominion of God. You cannot get away from the law, the influence of God's power over you. You just can't get away from it. That is because Krishna is situated within your heart, within everyone else's heart, within every single atom. Krishna is situated everywhere. So there's, everyone says, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? It's really stupid, like philosophical, I don't know what it is, mental masturbation thing. But Krishna is there observing it. The tree itself is a living entity, and there's trees around it which are living. I think scientists nowadays have understood that even plants are influenced by sound vibration. If you play good music, then the plant grows nice and happily, and but if you play like heavy metal, then it's all shriveled up or something like that. So, and what to speak of Krishna, even if it's just like a mountain with no living entities, just rocks, and then a rock tumbles down the mountain. Who is there to observe that? Does it make a sound? Does it actually fall? Yeah, Krishna is present everywhere, and Krishna is observing everything. Not a single blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna. So similarly, even if we might think that nobody is watching us, then by reading the Bhagavad Gita, by reading Prabhupada's books, by following this process of Krishna consciousness, we can at least have some level of consciousness all the time where, okay, at least if no one else knows about this, at least Krishna knows about it. And you might be able to make a good show for some time, keeping secrets and everything like this from your family, from your friends, from your temple president, You might be able to go some time like this, but you won't be exempt from the punishment of God. And this is a big point in some religious traditions, the wrath of God and how we should be scared of it and how we should live our life in fear that we will make God angry and He will banish us eternally in hell. I mean, this is okay to a certain extent. A lot of people are really turned off by this, but the point must be there that we have to understand that God is supremely powerful, which we're talking about now, and that power can be exerted over us in a very unfavorable way. It's like I was saying before, it's very nice to have a master who is very powerful, but if that person who is very powerful is not our master, he is our enemy, then we're in a world of hurt, we're in a world of suffering. So this is the situation for the demons who are transgressing the laws of nature, the laws of God. They're going against the dharma, which is set by the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, there are basic things which we need to maintain the body. We need to eat. We don't necessarily need to eat meat, but we need to eat. Therefore, there are religiously authorized things which we can eat. There are religiously authorized ways in which we can enjoy sex life. There are religiously authorized ways in which we can sleep and in which we can, protect ourselves. What is it? Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha. So eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are bodily necessities for the conditioned soul. For the physical body, these things must be there. So sex life, in order for the maintenance of the whole world, if nobody was engaging in sex life, then none of us would be here right now, And similarly, for a conditioned soul, it is simply a requirement in life, is that they need to have a sexual companion, an emotional partner. And then, of course, this is what, propagates, what's the right word? Expands progeny. Yeah, the progeny comes from this. And then the mission of God can go on by bringing people into this world, teaching them God consciousness, and then they become liberated going back to the spiritual world. But for those who are not following this, what is that? Yashastra vidhim utsrijya vartate kama karitaha nasasiddhim avapnoti nasukam naparangatim. So for those who do not follow the injunctions which are mentioned in Shastra and who act on their own lusty desires, those people do not attain happiness, and they also do not attain the topmost goal of life, which is to go back to Godhead. So although these four necessities are there, if we're acting in such a way to fulfill our desires in regards to these necessities of the body, without consulting the Vedic scriptures and without consulting the authorities in the Vedic knowledge, then the real purpose of human life is not achieved. There's specifically for sex life, there's different recommendations on how we can engage in sex life in a dharmic way, without transgressing the laws of nature and without transgressing the desire of Krishna or of God. This is explained, I think, by Narada to Yudhishthir in the 7th canto, where he's talking about the different orders, the different ashrams, and he's talking about in householder life, the garbha dana samskara must be followed. That is not that you just have sex here and there like an animal. You have to perform many different rituals, for lack of a better word. Samskara means impressions upon the mind, which are caused by some kind of activity which you're performing. Sinful sex life causes samskaras, but also religious sex life causes a different type of samskara. Illicit sex life causes samskaras which are very unfavorable to the execution of Krishna consciousness. And for those of us who have engaged in illicit sex life before coming to the shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement, to this day, I'm sure across the board, no one can say that they are not disturbed by some of the deeply rooted memories and impressions that are written upon the mind because of their illicit activities. Specifically in sex life, it's something which carries on throughout one's life. Even some of the most senior devotees that I know, disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they're literally pure devotees, and they're still telling me, I have so much regrets from as a young man, losing so much of my semen, doing so much nonsense. To this day, I'm still suffering from it. Now that's powerful. Of course, that's their humility. And in reality, they've been able to, by the process of Krishna consciousness, you can transcend these things, but still to teach us not to waste this human form of life, specifically in our youth. The great souls teach us, that how important it is and how absolutely horrendous it becomes for one who cannot control his sex desire, specifically at a young age. Prabhupada writes in one place that the more one indulges in sexual life as a young man, the more he will suffer as an old man. So many different health problems will come there because of that sexual energy, which is meant to be used in the service of Krishna, is being wasted in sense gratification. So that energy is lost forever, And it's said in the scriptures that just one drop of semen is worth, is it 60? 60? I thought it would be more than that. But still, 60 drops of blood goes into one little drop of semen. That means that the body it literally takes gallons of blood for one who is just wasting his semen in illicit sex life. So it's a very important aspect in Krishna consciousness, is this brahmacharya. This isn't something which is just for young men, it's also for young women. It's not just for young people, it's for old people, it's for middle-aged people. Everyone in Krishna consciousness should be a brahmachari. That means that they should control their sexual urges and they should utilize the energy, their God-given strength from Balarama. They should utilize it in serving Krishna. So whether one is in the brahmachari ashram, whether one is in the renounced order of life, who is not engaging in any sexual activity, or whether one is a householder, still that sexual energy needs to be dovetailed in the service of Krishna. And if it's not, then it becomes a cause of bondage. Yajñarthad karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha tarartham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Is that right? Yajñarthad. So Krishna he explains to Arjuna that one must perform yajna, one must perform sacrifice in this material world. And all activities which are not performed in sacrifice to Lord Vishnu are a cause for bondage in this material world. On the contrary, those activities which are performed in sacrifice become a cause for liberation. So specifically with sex life, we can observe very clearly that if one is engaging in sex life as a sacrifice to the Supreme Lord, their sex life becomes a cause for liberation. And this is what Krishna is talking about. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. Krishna says, kamosmi, I am that kama, which is dharma viruddha, which is according to the religious principles. So this is, that's a very powerful statement, By engaging in shastric, dharmic, Krishna-conscious sex life, family life, that is non-different from associating with Krishna. It's something which is very powerful. Of course, it's very risky. Can anyone here claim that they're able to strictly follow all the rules and regulations of family life? If you think it's hard being a brahmachari, just imagine having your own house, having your own money, having nobody there to tell you what to do, nobody there to correct you in your mistakes. If you think it's hard here, just imagine being on your own. Just imagine having that responsibility. And for many people, they have to learn the hard way after many, many years of material bondage to family, to wife and kids and money and jobs and cars and bills and taxes and health problems. It's up to you. But at the end of the day, for one who is able to do it, for one who is able to execute the dharma of the Grihastha ashram, that sex life is a cause for liberation. This is because their sex life is in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have two different lineages, basically, coming from the Prajapatis, the forefathers of all of the living creatures within this world. There are the demons and the demigods, the suras and the asuras, those which are godly and those which are ungodly. The story goes that Kashyapa and Diti, who are suras, they are direct descendants of Lord Brahma. One day, Diti wanted to engage in sex with her husband Kashyapa at an inauspicious time. Kashyapa, being a great Muni, being a very strict follower of the Vedic way of life, he recommends her, no, this is not an auspicious time to engage in sex life. Just wait some time, be patient, we'll do it the right way. And then if we do it the right way, then we'll get the desired result. We'll become happy, we'll become favored by the Lord, we'll become, we can live peacefully. But this was not, she wouldn't have it. And he transgressed, and he succumbed And from that sexual union at an improper time, a sexual act which was against the principles of Dharma, 2 very, very big demons were born. And at that time, it wasn't like whenever we were born, where nobody really cares except for our like immediate family. The whole universe felt the weight of these demons entering this world. You know, there were hurricanes and storms and thunder, and the demigods started crying, and they didn't know that everybody was experiencing inauspicious omens. The left side of their body was trembling, etc., just from them taking birth in this world. What to speak of their activities after being born in this world. One of them, Hiranyaksha, he fracked the earth so bad, trying to extract gold from the earth, that it literally fell out of its gravitational orbit and fell into the ocean, which is in the bottom of the universe. The earth, Bhumi Devi, had to be saved by Varaha, the boar incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And of course, we know the story of Hiranyakashipu, who was Hiranyaksha's brother, who wanted to get vengeance on Vishnu for killing his brother, so he performed huge austerities for many, many years, standing on one foot. His entire body became eaten by ants or something, and he became very, very powerful. And of course, we know the story of Nrsimhadev ripping his guts out and wearing them as a garland. So, but the point is that from illicit sex life, so many horrible things came about, and this is related in the Shastra. These are big demons, but we can experience it in our own lives, this unwanted progeny. Right from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, even Arjuna was making this point to Krishna. Adharma bhibavad Krishna. Do you know this one? Adharma bhibavad Krishna. Pradushyanti kulastriyah strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankara. So whenever the religious duties are not being performed, whenever adharma is prominent in families, then the women of those families are polluted. That means that they are being used as sexual objects. And from the polluted women of society, unwanted progeny comes about, varna sankara. And what does that varna sankara do? They create such an unfavorable atmosphere in this material world. It makes it almost impossible to be spiritual. That is what we're living in right now, and that's who we are. You know, we are all varna sankara. Your parents might have planned to have you, and they might have been very careful and used contraception so they didn't have too many kids, and these things might be there. But actually, why were we brought into this world? You know, why were we brought into this world? Our parents won't give any answers. You know, there's not really any goal in mind. Why do we have kids? Oh, because, we should have kids. It'll make us happy. Everyone has kids. Why don't we have kids? But nobody's actually happy just from having kids. You can become happy by having kids in Krishna consciousness, cultivating Krishna consciousness, and them, raising them to be righteous people, raising them to help to spread this movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is how we can become happy from sex life. This is how we can become happy from family life. And if one can simply avoid all of this altogether, just serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without taking this big risk, I don't know how bona fide this is, but this is what I've lived by for a few years, that we have vowed not to gamble, and family life seems like a big gamble. So take that with a grain of salt. Of course, that's a little fanatical, but still, you should understand that it's a pretty big gamble. It's a big gamble. There have been many cases in our own society, even within the past 10, 20 years, which are just very, very good negative inspiration for not getting involved in family life, even in so-called Krishna consciousness. But if one must do it, then they should do it according to the principles of Dharma, because kamosmi, Krishna, is that sex life which is dharmic. And then if we can associate with Krishna in this way, then it becomes a cause for liberation, and we become very happy. So, Yeah, so I'll finish there. Is that was I supposed to finish earlier? Sorry. Yeah, thing. Is there any questions?
I had a question and a couple comments. Keep it short. Let's see here. But anyways, you're talking about strength, and just to kind of like elaborate on that some more of the points you're making. But we also see too, like the general understanding of strength is like kind of like you're saying somebody has like big muscles and things like that. But then you were talking too that strength can be like manifest in different ways. And also too, we have like strength like of a nation or of an army collectively, like that strength is there. And then also too with like different fighters, like one may be like technically stronger than the other, but because one has like better technique, he's like able to overpower the other individual. So that person is like technically like stronger according to that. And then I was thinking too, just with that, with Jarasandha and Krishna, that when Jarasandha came to Mathura with so many Akshuhinis, so many thousands and thousands of soldiers, that Krishna killed them all. So even though he was outnumbered and, you know, whatever, they could have like lifted more weights or whatever, had more weapons, that Krishna was able to defeat them. Therefore, he's stronger. And then also too, there certain objects may, you know, whatever, imply like strength, you know, like a sword or an axe, mace, and all these things.
What is that? The communist symbol, the hammer and the
sickle.
Sickle, yeah.
Yeah, that's like. I think it's a whole other thing.
That doesn't represent strength. Anyways, when I see that, I think...
Kind of in like farming, I think
okay.
that sickles with that.
Gotcha.
Grains. Anyways, but... so the object is there, but then the strength that object derives from is the actual possessor of that. And then we see too, even with Krishna, like he can, you know, in the material world, they can't like, you know, they need like a sword or an axe. They need like weapons in order to like... exhibit their strength, but Krishna's not like that. We see with Balaram that he took a blade of grass, and then because he's extremely all power is there. He was able to influence that blade of grass and use that as a weapon. And I had one question. Anyways, maybe I don't know if there's time for it, but I don't know if you can elaborate specifically. Krishna's saying he's the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. Like what exactly does that?
Yeah, so later in a few verses, how does that start? Tribhir gunamayer bhaver, is that the same?
Yeah.
Ebi sarvamidam tatam.
He's got it up there. Mohitam nabiyanati.
What's the translation? Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. So the general understanding is that everyone, specifically conditioned souls, are deluded by these things, but Krishna is eternally not influenced by that. So, at least my understanding of it is that generally, if someone is very strong, that strength is exhibited through passion and what was the other thing that was there?
Desire.
And desire. And specifically, those who are famous for being strong in this world they have the qualities of kshatriyas. And kshatriyas are they're predominantly in the mode of passion, and they're more inclined of exhibiting their strength in things like having lots of wives, having big desires, wanting to conquer the whole world, material desires. These are material things. But Krishna's strength is completely pure. You know, Krishna can conquer the whole world. Krishna can have so many wives, and he does these things. But his strength is not contaminated by the three modes of material nature. It's not, it's not a material thing. I think that's basically what it is. But did you have any comment about that? Because a lot more could be said about that.
Yeah, a lot more could be said, but anyways.
Yeah, this verse, the purport is super, super short. On the phone, you read the whole purport to me, and I was like, okay, that's it. And yeah, he's like, is that enough? Do you need to go to the next verse too? And I was like, nah, this is plenty, This verse is, you can really, really turn, these points of strength and sex life are huge, huge, huge subjects. And I just mentioned a few things. Even after now, I'm like, oh man, I should have mentioned that. I should have talked about so many things can be there. Anybody else have a question over here?
Thank you for the class, Matsya Prabhu. That was really nectar. Seriously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see.
So, you made a really good point that these string of verses are actually meant to help us remember Krishna. And I was just reading in 11th Canto that one who's in full Krishna consciousness, they may not, who's a pure devotee, they may not necessarily see the personal form of Krishna, at all times, but they may just be, they see everything in relation with Krishna. And there's an analogy of a forest, and like a greedy businessman may go in the forest, and he may see like a business opportunity to make money out of all the trees, and then a lusty man may go in the forest and may be looking for the woman tourists, But a Krishna conscious person who enters the forest, they'll see how all these trees, everything can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. So it made me think of this, these string of verses help us to come to that platform, remembering Krishna and relation with Krishna.
Yeah.
But also in this connection, in this regard with Balam Balavatam Chaham, I was reminded of these verses in 7th Canto of Prahalad Maharaj, who's also seeing Krishna in everything. And the verse starts with 786. You put on 786. And Hiranyakashipu, he says, "My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I'm angry, all the planets of the 3 worlds tremble along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you?" And then Prahlad Maharaj goes on to say, in the verse it says, "Savai balam balinam cha paresham." But he said, "My dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior, everything, including Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." So Prahlad Maharaj, was on this platform seeing everything, and he referred seeing Hiranyakashipu as Prahlad if he saw Krishna even in the pillar. He was like, yeah, And so then there's somebody came out of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Didn't Hiranyakashipu ask Prahlad how he's getting this strength to not to be killed by all of his schemes to kill him, and then Prahlad tells him, I'm getting my strength from the same place you're getting your strength.
You're getting it. Yeah,
really ticked him off. He didn't want to admit that he was getting his strength from anywhere but himself. He went and got it himself. He wasn't recognizing. Even that Brahma gave him those benedictions, he wasn't really giving any credit to him. What to speak of Krishna, Vishnu. Okay. Anybody else over here? Yes, Janardhan Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Scoot over a little.
So you were speaking, obviously the main points of this verse was strength and sex life, and you also briefly mentioned this part of the Bhagavatam that talks about Diti and Kashyapa Muni. And I'm actually just going through that part right now, and there's one of these purports here that was very applicable and inspiring and kind of talks about all these. It says, and it's very short, it says, "When a man or woman is afflicted by the lust of sex desire, it is to be understood as sinful contamination. Kashyapa was engaged in spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words, expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not a strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words."
Wow.
So this is like kind of touches up and sums up on all these points that you were, some austerities to become strong, or try to work out your body, or try to do this and do that to become strong. But you're just fully a devotee of Krishna. Naturally, all strength comes.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. You had something, Ram?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. A lot of amazing points. One thing is that, we hear many times about these rites in which one has to perform when it comes to marriage is actually laid out in Bhagavatam. It's like almost like a 24-hour service that you have to perform. It lists it out from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And it's like so many things you have to do. A lot of time people take it, like you said, you have to follow this strictly. If you don't, then you end up with I don't know, so say one is one might say, oh, this person is Krishna conscious and I have the strength alone to actually have this family going, or, But you remember there was a king, I think it was named Vena? Because when he had his kid, his wife wasn't properly performing. He was properly following Dharma. This kid was born, and this kid was killing from since he was young. He was because of why, and it was given because due to his wife and their background, this is where it was coming from. So it's very important to actually understand when it comes to family life, the things in which you have to perform to come out from what it is that you've been born into. This is very important because this Krishna consciousness actually have that potency to do this. And it's amazing because, a lot of time you hear, even now, you hear people talking about, oh, I have to get money, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. We don't have to do any of these things, technically speaking. If you really, really want to follow the principle, then you follow the principle. You don't need these things to make family life work. At least from my point of view, at least from where I see it from the scripture, it doesn't say go out and work, go out and do this. This is, yes, you have to maintain family, but I think there's a few instances where it's given the detail, where in the Bhagavatam, where what was his name? He went to Krishna with the handful of rice. Sudama, yeah. So you can see, his wife and him was living in poverty throughout the whole life. And they just, his wife sent him to Krishna. She didn't send him to go work. So these things are there. It's there in Shastra laid out. There's no running from them.
Yeah,
thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any questions from the Matajis? No? Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha